There we go. So I think there's more learning to be done during week 7. So first off, I want to say this is the last week of work that we're being assigned. Yeah, it's technically the last week of school. In terms of we can't give any more work because we have to give 2 more weeks for everyone who wants to turn in late work and stuff like that. But this is the last week of work that we're assigning. Yeah, I mean, like the school year ends the 4th, June 4th. Yeah, school. So report cards are due, I think June 4th is when they'll be in. So in terms of this being our last class, I haven't decided yet. I think so. This is the last week of work, right? So the last week I can actually like lecture and stuff. But next week I was thinking maybe just taking your guys' experiment ideas that you wanted to see and like trying to do some of those live. I'm worried about the quality, but again, it's not going to be mandatory. I mean, technically this isn't mandatory. It's just to make it have you let you have easier work, right? But I mean, it could be a cool, fun thing in terms of, just doing some fun experiments. I don't know. I was thinking maybe either do that or if I can't control the quality on Zoom, maybe I just record it and put it on YouTube. I don't know. I think I'll figure it out through the week. But anyways, this is do a live stream on YouTube. Maybe I might do that. It'll depend. I'll need to check the quality again. A let's play. I'm not going to do a let's play. At least not on my teaching YouTube account because that is unprofessional. Okay, so let me share my screen now. So you guys, where is the chat? I want to see the chat still. So last week we were talking about human impact on the environment. We only got a little bit into it though. Okay. So I wanted to talk about it a little bit more, and then I'll tell you this is going to reduce the amount of work you have again, right? But this is just more, I wanted to have you guys have a little bit more insight because we only talked about climate change last week, right? And I wanted to talk about something other than climate change. Well, in addition to, I guess. These aren't my slides, but it can help show. Okay, so first, population growth of humans leads to industrialization, right? So we're burning more fossil fuels. Not as much now because we're all staying inside and no one's driving around. But generally, when we have a lot more population, we're going to be burning more fossil fuels, which are, the non-renewable resources. So we talked last week about renewable resources, the ones that we can get back easily, and then the non-renewable resources, which we can't, right? Population growth leads to more pollution, and which increases CO2 levels, okay? The CO2 levels contribute to climate change, as we talked about last week, by, trapping the energy in here. So we have less going out than we do coming in, which heats up our entire planet, right? So one of the things that we didn't get to talk about was acid rain, okay? So what happens is we have all these chemicals that are getting released into the environment. So we have over here, it shows SO2 and NOx. I guess that means the oxygen is variable for that. And that is going up into the air and it's getting absorbed into the clouds and it's coming down with the rain, right? So that's what we call acid rain. So the burning of our fossil fuels are releasing sulfates and nitrates into the air. Sulfates and nitrates mix with water vapor in air and form sulfuric acid and nitric acid. All of this is to say that when the water from the rain is coming down, it's acidic, right? So what you'll see is that in places like New York, right, the rain will come down and it's not going to like burn it down right away, right? It's not like highly acidic. It's not like you pour it on your hand and there goes your flesh. You have a skeleton as your hand now, a skeletal hand. Um, that would not be fun. Do not recommend. But it's not like that, right? But as it rains in New York, Corbin, please don't, please don't dip your hand in acid. Anyways, the acid's in the rain, so over time, the rain is degrading a lot of different things, right? So like window panes and stuff like that, all of it gets degraded because the acid is burning through it slowly. But this is also why you shouldn't drink rain when there's like a lot of pollution in the air, because the rain is acidic. It's not good. This is also helping to cause acidification of lakes and other large bodies of water, right? So these lakes and ponds, they can become so acidic that life can't live within them, okay? So all the fish and all the ducks and all the good, cool things, they can't live there if it's too acidic. It's like, you know how when we were talking about enzymes and stuff, and how in our bodies, our bodies have to have a certain pH so that the enzymes can function. And then if it was too acidic, the enzymes would just break down. It's like that, except in this case, the enzymes are fish, and the fish just die. They don't do anything. You see these fish here? They're dead. So the acid rain, like getting deposited, causes that. What? Yeah, then you can't make YouTube videos on fishing, Isaac. It would not be great. It would not be fun. Although you should put a link to your YouTube so I can show my dad some of your videos so that he can learn how to fish. Anyways, what also can cause it is like large water like that, large bodies of water are also like CO2 dumps. And the CO2 comes from the atmosphere and goes in the lakes, and it also causes acidification. That and into oceans and stuff like that. Yeah, so acidification of lakes is also an impact that humans are having. So acid rain, lakes being acidified. Another big thing, I don't know if you could have guessed this, is deforestation, right? So all of us humans, all right. If anyone wants to see Isaac fishing, here is his YouTube. I will be watching that later while I have to procrastinate on work. So we're with deforestation, okay? So population growth leads to the loss of natural habitats. And this is because as our population goes up, we have to get more wood and things like that so that we can build homes. So we cut down trees to build new homes. And because these trees are gone, we're losing biodiversity. So the things that live in the trees and around the trees, like think about it, it's just not the things in the trees. It has to be around the trees too, because we're going physically into that area and cutting down all of these trees. Okay? So all of that stuff, all of those animals either die or they have to leave the area because of that. But also what we're doing when we cut down trees is we're losing our oxygen producers and CO2 eliminators, right? So they all the way back to photosynthesis. We can do like a flashback sequence. I wasn't there, so just imagine me as a bald-headed um, white man, Mr. Jonas, with a snake around his head. Yep. Talking about photosynthesis. So plants are the things that take in CO2, and using CO2 and water and sunlight, they make oxygen and sugar, right? So the oxygen comes out and they have sugar, but they're getting rid of CO2. See, the plants are CO2 dumps. So all these trees are CO2 dumps. Just like the rainforests are one of the biggest CO2 dumps. So when we're cutting down all of these trees, we're losing the things that are giving us oxygen, number one. And number two, we're getting rid of the things that can actively get rid of our CO2 emissions, which is why like planting trees is important, right? So we're causing deforestation just because we're growing in population. Yeah, you should stop burning forests, Corbin, definitely. And it's just a natural thing of our population going up, right? And that's not even counting the fact that like we cut down the forest so that not only can we get the trees to build new homes, but we also need the space to build new homes, right? Okay. This is another one. Herbicides and pesticides. Okay. So we spray pesticides and herbicides. We don't know the consequences. So we're doing this stuff so that we can control the pests that are getting to our food, right? But we don't know like the bigger consequences of that. So we think maybe we're doing that just to kill the the insects, right? So like DDT is the big one. It's claimed to be a miracle. It doesn't really have an effect on humans. It doesn't poison us. Just from spraying it on that. That's why we used it for so long, right? But the problem with it is that it can build up in the environment. So does anyone remember this term of biological magnification? No? Okay. It's okay. It was like a while ago. It was probably like in your first month or two of learning. So biological magnification is this idea that if you're using like a pesticide or some kind of toxin in the smaller scale of things, as you go up the food chain, that small amount gets more and more concentrated and will have a larger effect. So basically what happens is you have the DDT in the water, right? There's a minuscule amount. But then all the zooplankton start, feeding from the water and it gets into them. Then the small fish, they have a larger amount. And then the larger fish have a larger amount. And then finally the birds have like this larger amount, right? The largest amount. So it goes from 0.003 or something, 0.04 to 0.5 to 2 to 225. And the reason for that, if you think about it, so there's only 0.0003 in water, but all these zooplankton are drinking, not really drinking. They are. They're doing photosynthesis. So they're doing photosynthesis, taking in all this water, and it's getting into them, right? And then the small fish, has to eat a bunch of zooplankton. And because of that, each one of them is getting like a 0.04 from the zooplankton, for each one that they eat. So that means that they have a larger amount. The larger fish have to eat all the smaller fish, so they have a larger amount. And then the big birds are eating the most concentrated portions, right? So they're like getting poisoned because of this. You can also think of it like in terms of us, right? Have you heard of like getting mercury poisoning from fishes? That's because it's okay, Reese. I'm just glad you're here. Um, so the mercury poisoning in humans from fish is because we're eating all of these fish that have mercury build up from like a little tiny zooplankton all the way into these bigger tunas. I think it's tuna. I don't eat fish anymore, or didn't really beforehand, so I can't remember which ones to avoid. Anyways, um, yeah. So bioaccumulation is that big one, biomagnification. We're also causing ozone depletion. Okay, so in the 80s, it was apparent that the ozone layer was disappearing, and that was confirmed to be caused by human activity. Does it say why it's bad? So the reason this is bad, does anyone know what the ozone layer does? It's okay if not. I can tell you what it does. I'm supposed to know this stuff. No? Okay. So the ozone layer is this nifty little thing up in our atmosphere. Yes, Isaac, that's it. Right? So the sun is a giant radioactive ball of fire, basically. Um, yes, it stops the sun from becoming a deadly laser. Exactly. So the sun is this burning ball of gas in the sky that is shooting radiation down at us. Um, mm, yeah, basically. So the sun is shooting down all this radiation at us. Some of it's getting through, but most of it is blocked by the ozone layer. That's what it's doing. It's blocking like the most harmful of the radiation from getting down to us. Um, so, I mean, the sun is providing warmth and like energy and all that, but it's also trying to kill us. So the atmosphere, the ozone layer, is what's trying to protect us. But the ozone layer is starting to disappear, and it's being caused by human activity. So what's happening is that these carbon fluorocarbons, I'm not sure if that's the right word. That's what it says it is, though. So we're going to say that. They're leaking into the atmosphere and eating away the ozone. So, like, just the things that we're using in everyday life. So, like Freon, it's a CFC, and that's leaking into the atmosphere. Um, and it's causing the ozone layer to slowly deplete, right? What's interesting, I read, look, take this with a grain of salt. Um, but I read somewhere that because of this pandemic, one of the holes that had recently like been punctured into the atmosphere closed up because there wasn't a lot of CFCs going into the air anymore. So it gave it time to like heal itself. So that's pretty cool. Um, they predicted that it would just like get punctured again though, because when we go back to doing normal things, we're gonna puncture it again. That is exactly how it works, Corbin. So CFCs causing the ozone layer to break apart. Pollution, we're causing pollution. So water pollution. So you think oil spills, um, gasoline spills, all that gets into our drinking water. It also affects our biodiversity because with the oil spills, it's hurting, marine life and all that stuff. Yeah, yeah, China's pollution went down a lot. I want to use some words that I can't use, but biometric lot. No, we don't want to destroy China. So yeah, the quarantine has been good for the environment because we're not out so much and we're not producing as much. It's bad for the economy because of the same reasons. Oh man. I'm not here to be an economy teacher though. Otherwise I'd tell you all about that stuff. No, Japan did not get better after we nuked it. No. I would heavily disagree with that, Corbin. We probably had that before we nuked Japan. Nuking Japan did not cause the anime to happen. No. Yeah. No. Anyways, the economy was so good. Hopefully it comes back. I agree. Um, the economy was good. But I don't know. The economy was already going to start declining, I think, before the pandemic. This just kind of exacerbated it to its breaking point a lot faster. It's there's a lot of technicalities with economy talk. I will say that this pandemic is showing the problems of capitalism, and that is all I will say. Okay, so oil spills, pollution, we pollute water. We're doing bad stuff with that. So like, here's an example: the Exxon oil spills. You know how like I think it was Exxon. Maybe it was two different companies. I know Exxon had like an oil spill back in like 2008, and then I think like 4 or 5 or 6 years later, there was another one from the same company, but I can't remember. I lived through it, you know, and I'm a dinosaur now. Um, not compared to Mr. Jonas, but I definitely am because I'm forgetting things. So oil spills, bad. Look at this dead bird. All these dead birds. Okay, global warming. We talked about this a lot. Increase in CO2, increase in greenhouse effect, and increase in global temperatures. Right. So this is basically what we covered all of last time. Global warming. Okay, so that's the end of that one. There's one other thing that I want to talk about that we've caused as well, um, which is invasive species. So there wasn't really invasive species. I know, thank you guys. There wasn't really invasive species um, back in the day, right, when there weren't humans. But because of humans, sometimes we just take one thing out from its natural environment and then we put it into a different environment, right? What ends up happening is that thing that we take from that environment is just better at what it does and what the things that in the new environment than the things that had already adapted for it. Okay. So what happens is they start like taking all of the resources and crowd out other animals that or plants that were adapted to that environment or are naturally there, and it's causing lower biodiversity because of that. Okay, so oh god, here, let me see. I had a list. I don't need a PowerPoint. Invasive species blacklist. Let's look at this. No. Apparently raccoons. Okay, so like think about invasive species. I remember the jackrabbit is like a big one. It's a big invasive species. Squirrels are. Ooh, the most recent one. Have you guys heard about this killer bee, or not bee, wasp? The Asian wasp that's coming around? Yeah, the murder hornet. Yeah, they're murder hornets. Yes, those things. Those are an invasive species. They came from like Asia, and they're killing our bees. Um, and then we're also, I think they're killing our bees. I think that's what it was. Do you know if they're killing our bees? Okay. Um, we shouldn't be too worried right now. The Asian hornet. Yes, it's the Asian hornet. Um, okay. Well, I mean, like, we don't need to be worried in California because they were in Texas, right? Um, not Texas. They were somewhere else here, but they're not in California yet. Huh? They're killing bees? Okay, thank you. They kill honeybees, but there was one dead on a ship. Yeah. So the problem with them, right, is that we brought them over unintentionally from Asia. I mean, like, there's a probability now that they're on the continent, right, that they could come over here, that they could come to California. And that's the problem, right? Is that invasive species, they're just better at doing things. So they come in and then they take out all of the other stuff. And yeah, they're like the apex predator, right? The government exposed the virus and now they released the bees. That's some conspiracy theory stuff, Melina. Um, and I will not stand for conspiracy theories. Um, unless you're talking about the federal government, which I would not put it past them to release bees on us. That's neither here nor there. They probably didn't release the virus because, they just probably didn't. That's some Hunger Games stuff. I look. We might get there one day. We might. Anyways, invasive species is one of the big things that we contribute to as well. Um, I think cats were a big invasive species, like the outdoor cats, feral cats. Um, and like if you look at them, they're literally the worst thing for any ecosystem because they just go in there and they kill everything. Then they multiply like rabbits, and then they keep killing things. Okay, so invasive species is another big thing that we do. There's also like this fish that someone brought over from Europe, I want to say. There's like this fish that can like walk on land. They put it in like a tank or something, and then it was able to like walk out of its tank and then into a lake and then just eat everything in the lake. What's it called? Snakehead fish. No, it came from Asia. Yeah, it came from Asia. Then they came and yeah, they can migrate up to 400 meters on wet land to other bodies of water by wriggling their bodies and fins. They are also called fishzilla. Um, anyways, okay. Our resident fisherman knows. Imagine telling your friends you were being chased by a fish. I mean, like, sometimes the truth hurts, is all I will say. Okay? So, that ends my lecture today, guys. So, I'm sure for all of you, you now want to know your assignment. I will say for this week, there's 3 activities, right? I'm not going to assign one of them. You choose one, okay? Choose one of the activities. I should have phrased that better. Choose one of the activities and turn it in, or do it and then turn it in, okay? You get a pick. You only have to do one of them. Yeah. Um, Next week, I think I'm going to try and do either a Zoom or like a live YouTube or something on experiments. It's going to suck if I can't get the quality better, like because remember last time the quality was kind of bad. Um, there's a bass called a peacock bass brought from a foreign country. Some guy released it and it's thriving. They don't do any harm. Oh, okay. So that's cool. If so, like it's not really an invasive species if it's not like, well, it is an invasive species, but it's not like a harmful one. That if it's not like taking out the rest of the competition, right? If it's just existing, um it's just there, right? Um so anyways, that concludes the lecture, guys. I just wanted to say real quick, because if I don't see you guys next week or the week after, this is the last time you come to the lecture, that's cool. But I also wanted to just say thanks for having me, guys. It's been a real pleasure to be your guys' teacher. Um, I've learned a lot from just being with you guys, and it's been a hard time. I know in the quarantine. Um, but you guys are really great students, and I loved being your teacher. I wish that I had my chemistry credential to like be a chemistry teacher next year at Freedom, and then maybe I'd see some of you again. But um, just a TED talk on fish. How do we prove we were in this? Yeah. Thanks, guys. Um, you've been wonderful. You really have. I couldn't have asked for a better, 5 classes to teach. Um, Thanks. I'm not going to be a teacher at Freedom next year. They have the bio department all filled up, and they already hired a new chemistry teacher. I was trying to be a chemistry teacher at Freedom, but the pandemic kind of I was supposed to take a test to see if I could be one, but the pandemic kind of killed that test for me. So I don't have a job yet. I need to be looking, and I'm hoping I can get one. It's gonna be hard with the pandemic. Yeah. But I am hoping somewhere either in this area, so the Bay Area, or in the Sacramento area, because I went to UC Davis and I like it up there. So thanks, guys. Thanks. It means a lot. Um, but I'll see about doing like a fun experiment next week. Thanks, Logan. Um, but other than that, I really hope you have a great week. Um, you guys have done great work. I'll try and walk around and say hi, Melina. I will.